Tennis is something very special in my life, and I don't think I can live without playing tennis, said Mansour Bahrami, known for making people laugh through his captivating showmanship. Most people don't know Bahrami, the professional tennis player, and his sad story. Mansour has held both French and Iranian nationality since 1989. While only moderately successful on the main ATP tour, his showmanship was made him long-standing and popular figure in invitational tournaments. Bahrami's sad story begins in Arak, Iran, where he was raised in a small room measuring about 10 square meters and a meter and a half underground, literally a hole. The room was within a large sports complex where he was first introduced to tennis. His father was a gardener, making minimal wages at the Royal Tennis Courts in Tehran Sports Center, allowing Bahrami to grow up around the sport. When Mansour finally got his hands on a real tennis racket and stepped onto a real tennis court, it wasn't the life-changing moment one might expect. A former Iranian Davis Cup player gave Bahrami his first racket, but only within moments he was harshly beaten by guards with his racket crushed beside him. They kept insisting that he wasn't allowed to play tennis, only to be a ball boy instead. Bahrami actually didn't mind. In fact, it was fun for him. He later did it from the age of 5 until 13. But of course, he still wasn't allowed to play on a proper tennis court. And at the end of the summer season, when the swimming pool was drained, Bahrami used to use the empty pool as a practice wall, playing against it for hours. So yes, he was only 13, but he had never played on a real tennis court. But Mansour knew exactly what he was doing. One day, he played against a kid who had been training for 15 years, and Mansour still managed to win 6-love in straight sets, and as a result, he was finally given 2 rackets and allowed to use the court. Fast forward to 1970s, Bahrami was welcomed by the Iranian Tennis Federation, given more rackets and allowed to play the sport he loved. He joined the Davis Cup team and became one of Iran's best players. But his hardest days were still to come. At the end of the 1970s, and exactly during the 1977, Ayatollah Khomeini came to power and the Iranian Revolution began. Tennis was banned at the time, as the revolution viewed it as a form of American capitalism. Ayatollah declared that tennis was forbidden forever. During the revolution times, Bahrami couldn't play or travel during what should have been the prime of his career. He didn't touch a tennis ball for 3.5 years. At the time, Bahrami was in a terrible situation. He had no job, and he couldn't convince anyone to play with him since they feared they would be shot. For Bahrami, tennis was more than a game. It brought him joy, hope, and a sense of purpose. On August 8, 1980, he decided he couldn't stay in Iran if it meant never playing again. It was time for a fresh start, so it was time to leave home, and the destination was Paris. Bahrami arrived in France with only 8,000 French francs in his pocket, which translates to approximately 1,200 euros. But within a few hours, he realized that this amount wouldn't last long, so he tried his luck at the casino. His logic was pretty simple. If he win 30 or 40,000 francs, he could survive in France for a few months, and if he lost, staying a week or a day wouldn't make much difference. And as you probably expected, he lost everything in less than 15 minutes. Bahrami was now in an incredibly difficult situation. He didn't speak the language. He was illegal and hiding from the police. He was homeless, and sometimes he didn't even have anything to eat. He spent night walking through the streets of Paris. Many in his situation would have given up and gone home. In 1981, Bahrami was given a wildcard into pre-qualifying for the French Open. He ran through 6 matches to reach the main draw. He had no choice but to qualify. Bahrami then managed to defeat a top French player in the first main draw match, earning media recognition that eventually helped him renew his visa. However, he still couldn't travel freely. He was only allowed to stay in France and had to visit the police almost every day for visa issues. He was given the option to apply for political refugee status, which would have granted him travel freedom, but at the cost of never being able to return to Iran. Mansour refused that offer because his father was in his 80s and he didn't want him to pass away without seeing him again. Bahrami lost the prime years of his career in his 20s, unable to play or travel, but he doesn't look back on those days with regret. There were some years I was just frustrated because I couldn't travel, couldn't play, but those days are past and I'm always looking ahead, Mansour has once said. Bahrami today is entertaining crowds, taking the court with tennis legends like John McEnroe and Jimmy Connors, and most importantly, playing the sport he truly loves. He used to imagine waving to a packed stadium and smiling. Now he's living that dream, and everyone is smiling back. When he was 12 or 13, playing against the wall with a piece of wood, people would stop and applaud him, amazed at how he hit the ball between his legs or with his back to the net. If he could do it with the wood, imagine how much easier it became with a racket. And although his first year in Paris was an endless struggle to survive, the only years Bahrami looks back on with bitterness are the ones he was stuck in Iran. So what do you guys think? If Bahrami had been allowed to travel during his prime, would he have made a breakthrough in singles? Could he have been a top 10 tennis player or even won a major? Or did his unique story help cover up his tactical limitation as a player? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.